Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Dr. Tim Puckett with Puckett Physical Therapy, and we're going to talk a little bit about hip mobility, its importance, and one really cool and challenging drill that you can do to improve that hip mobility. So, especially when we are doing squats, we need to make sure that our hip mobility is where it needs to be. Otherwise, there's going to be compensations, usually at the spine, when we're trying to get deep into the hole of the squat. So when you're squatting, what the hips are doing is your femur inside of the hip socket is actually flexing as well as internally rotating inside that pelvis. And so we need good motion and good control in both of those directions so that we can be more efficient in our squat. And so here is a really cool drill that you can work on as a warm-up, as well as just kind of a daily mobility drill. It's going to combine some muscle activation as well as some mobility and joint range of motion. Now, a lot of times when we're feeling muscle tightness, you're going to stretch it and maybe it's temporarily improved, but then that muscle tightness just continues to come back day after day after day. One of the common areas for that to occur is in the hip flexors. People stretch their hip flexor all the time, but it never releases. It doesn't feel better. Typically, that's not a flexibility issue. That is most often a stability issue or a strength issue. The body isn't tightening up because it's not being stretched or because it's not flexible, but that muscle is tightening up because it's trying to create an artificial stability where there is instability, or it's trying to create artificial strength where there is weakness. So stretching alone isn't the answer. Stretching combined with muscle activation and strengthening can really help. And so this drill is going to combine all those things together. So you're going to start down in what we call a shin box, okay? We've got a 90-degree angle at each knee. One leg is in front of you and one leg is out kind of to the side and behind you. And this is our starting position, all right? You want to try and keep your chest up and keep your trunk as tall as you can. Don't be leaning over. Don't be leaning back or forward. Try and stay up as high as you can. Okay? Now, if this position is challenging for you to get into, that's already cluing us in to a mobility issue. If this position is too stressful on your knees, then adjust the angle of your knee to make it a little less stressful on the knee. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is with this forward leg, the one that's right in front of me, I'm going to try and lift my foot up off of the ground and back down. Now, it's probably not going to move, but this is just a muscle activation right here. So I'm trying to lift about 5 seconds and back down. And I am going to have the tendency to lean over to the side, but try and stay up as tall as you can. Okay, now I'm going to press my foot down into the floor without lifting my knee up. So my knee stays down, but I'm also trying to press my foot down into the floor for about 5 seconds and relax. Repeat those for anywhere from 5 to 10 rounds. You may get tired pretty quickly with this, but a 5-second push down into the floor, a 5-second push up off of the floor, 5 to 10 rounds. Now we're going to go to this other leg and we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to try and press my foot down into the floor for 5 seconds and relax. Again, trying to keep an upright trunk. And then I'm also going to try and lift that foot up off the floor, and that's really hard. It may feel like you're going to cramp somewhere in the glutes or the hip. 5-second push down, 5-second lift up, 5 to 10 rounds on that. Okay. Once you've completed those, then you're going to switch sides. So I'm going to switch my legs and do the same thing on this other side. Okay. So those are your muscle activation techniques in the shin box. Now we're going to do some shin box transitions. Okay. We're going to kind of put this all together. So in this same position, I'm gonna leave my feet planted on the floor, keep my trunk up as tall as I can, and I'm gonna rotate my hips to the other side. Stay up nice and tall, rotate to the other side, okay? Feet stay on the ground, trunk is up nice and tall. I'm using my hip and core muscles to make these rotations. Do about 10 rotations to each side, so that would be 20 total. And that is gonna be a really, really good hip mobility and muscle activation and control of your hips to help you with any athletic movement, but especially with deep squats.